Hi everybody, thank you for joining me. Today's Saturday, December the 18th, 2021, which means that it's a year ago today that Paul McCartney released the third of his Mccartney albums, Mccartney Iii, released on this day. Now, it was originally supposed to be released a week earlier on December the 11th, which would have been the 50th anniversary of John Lennon's Plastic Ono Band. That'd have been an interesting clash, but it was eventually put back a week. It seems like there might have been some kind of deal potentially done with Paul's friend Taylor Swift there to ensure that they could both get a #1 album out of this. It worked in the UK anyway, and this was #1 for Christmas in 2020. And I just wanted to take a moment, sort of first of all, to say happy birthday to the album. Think about what I think of the album a year later. I certainly want to know what you think of the album a year down the line, so let me know in the comments. In fact, in a moment, I want you to pause this video and first of all, just tell me, give it a rating out of 10 and let me know what your favourite track is. Pause the video now and do that. Done that? Okay, right, let's crack on with the video. So, Mccartney Iii, it was such a surprise when this was announced that we're actually going to be getting what had kind of been thought of for years as a mythical Mccartney Iii. Will it ever happen? And there were certain albums that came along that you could maybe argue were the nearest thing to a McCartney album or a Mccartney Iii. So some people like to think of Chaos and Creation in the Backyard as a McCartney album because it's pretty much Paul doing almost everything on the album. Electric Arguments under the Fireman name is another one that's often people sort of thought of. Could that be a Mccartney Iii? Because it's pretty much all him on there. But we finally got one officially anyway. So yeah, I want to show you really sort of what I ended up with as a result of this. And as we're going through, I'll talk about certain thoughts I have on the album as we go through. So my first thing that I did when it was announced was quickly put an order in for the CD. Just the regular CD. That's the cover that it is on the back because there's been various variations of back covers. I put an order in for the CD, and I also ordered at the time this vinyl version, which is the Spotify Coke bottle green version. Just open that up for you. This is beautiful. I know it quickly it quickly went sold out, and it became quite sought after. But it's a really nice looking piece of vinyl, is that, and sounds really nice too. So I was really pleased to get hold of that. And then so that was the first one that I ordered on the day that this was announced. And then it wasn't long after that of course they've announced how many different variations. Does anybody actually know how many variations of this album have been released on vinyl? So many different colours. I'm not one to get annoyed about this. I know some people have tried to collect as many as they want, and brilliant. Good luck to you. The way that I've always kind of approached this is the album is available and we can choose what colour we want it in. Same as a car, really, is the way that I've thought of it. But I did kind of fall for buying a second vinyl version of it, which is this. This is the indie white vinyl I bought from Rough Trade in the UK. It's got the same back cover there. Now at first, this is really weird. At first, I wasn't overly happy with the sound at the end of this album, which was a bit odd. It sort of went a bit warbly to my ears. Beautiful looking piece of vinyl there. But I've since upgraded my turntable, and it sounds a lot better to me now. It doesn't sound warbly at all. So I've ended up with two vinyl versions of Mccartney Iii. The Spotify green and that indie white vinyl. Unusual for me to buy more than one copy of an album, but I've kind of gone a bit mad on this one, and I'm not going to apologise for that. I've had quite a bit of fun over the year, and one thing, to be honest, that we've all needed over the last couple of years is a bit of fun, because it's been in short supply. So I'm going to make no apologies for kind of going to town a little bit on what I've bought with Mccartney Iii. I was also incredibly lucky and very thankful that I did get sent various things as well by Capitol Records, which was crazy. They must have appreciated what I'd been doing. So I was going to show you some of those things as well that I got. So there was the dice. This was a big thing with Mccartney Iii, was the dice. And I got sent a few bags of dice. There was another one, there was actually another couple of bags that I got sent that I gave away as prizes. So maybe the prize winners are watching this video still, I don't know. But it came with guitar plectrums as well. Hopefully you can see that. in various different colours. There's a yellow one there. I gave away a lot of these plectrums in the competitions that I did. And the dice that are in there, the number 3 features heavily on the dice and McCartney on one side. You may recall a competition I did, good grief, it's just coming back to haunt me in my memory now as I speak, where I gave away the goodies, where I had to roll 3 dice, see how many times I could roll it before I got McCartney 3 times, and you all had to guess how many times it would take. I can't remember how many times it took, but it was not far off 300, I think, before I got the 3 McCartneys. Which was crazy. I got one of these bags as well, which has got, I think it's got pretty similar stuff in here. There's a load more plectrums in there, and 3 more dice. So they're just kind of fun little trinkets to have on my shelf on display as a reminder of some of the fun that we've had with all this. Another thing that I got sent in that same package by Capitol Records was this that some of you may have. This is piano, vocal, guitar, the music basically to all the songs from McCartney III. Lavatory Lil, if you want to play that, there's the music in here. We have got, what else have we got? Let's just pick one more out at random. Of course I've picked the longest flipping song in the book, and it goes on for ages. I'm guessing that must be Deep Deep Feeling. Yeah, it just, trust me to pick a page that doesn't have a song title and find my way there, of course. And this also came with another version of the album at the back. I haven't actually counted up how many versions of this album I've got, but I'm going to do that now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I seem to have 7 copies of this album, which is it's unprecedented for me. But like I say, we all needed a bit of fun over the last year or so. They also sent me, I've given away a few copies of this CD because, again, that box that I got from Capitol had a few of these in that I was very grateful for. I've shared those with friends and in competitions, but I've still got one sealed one left. They also sent me a few, I think 4 of these cassettes, and I've kept one. The others have been given to friends and competition winners. I haven't opened this, and I'm probably not going to open it. Again, it's nice to have on display. I am past the point of playing cassettes. In my opinion, it's a format revival too far, I think. But I wouldn't play it, but it's nice to have that on the shelf and to look at alongside some of my old original 1980s cassettes from when I was a kid. The other version of McCartney III that I got was this Japanese SHM CD, Super High Material. Is that what it stands for? I think so. I did do a video actually where I compared the sound of this to the sound of the regular CD, and it threw up some interesting results. I'll put a link to that somewhere, comments, whatever, if you want to have a look at that, because I was very sceptical about what the difference might be, and I was intrigued by the results, shall we say. This has kind of become relevant again in the last couple of days, because a lot of you will have seen on Paul McCartney's social media accounts that he's been sharing a link to a studio outtake of Women and Wives. And a lot of people probably won't have heard that before, but it is on this. It's on this Japanese SHM CD that came out on the same day. It came out at the same time as the other original variations of the album. There was also, some of you might have had, there was CD versions that Paul sold through his website. There was 4 different variations where each one had a different single bonus track on the end, and one of those had the Women in Wives studio outtake. So some of us will have had that song for a year now. For other people, if they didn't get that variation or this Japanese version, it could well be quite new to you. So if you've not heard that yet, it's worth going and checking out. There is another section to the song that didn't make it into the final album version, that's just kind of completely different. Real nice variation on the back cover on this Japanese version as well, of Paul with his eyes closed. I think Mary McCartney took some great photographs as part of these sessions, which has been really good to see. And I love that link there between with Mary, of course, her being on the original McCartney album in 1970 under Paul's jacket on the cover there, and of course 50 years later here she is thoroughly involved in McCartney III and giving us all these great new photographs of Paul. So the other thing that came with the Japanese SHM CD was this, which I've just taken it down off my wall. It's blue tacked up on my wall. Nice little poster there advertising the album, Made in Rockdown. and on the back it's got a 2021 calendar. I've just done a little bit of Googling, folks. If you've got this calendar, don't throw it away, because in 2027 you can reuse it. It will be the same calendar again. So we've only got just over 5 years to wait before we can use that calendar all over again. So Mccartney III, I'm just going to quickly go through the track listing and just sort of say what I think about this, and then I'm going to move on to talk about Mccartney III Imagined, which was the kind of follow-on part of the same project, and show you again what I've managed to accumulate for Mccartney III Imagined. Long-Tailed Winter Bird on here I think is a great opening. I think it's absolutely fully befitting of the McCartney album status, and the status of a McCartney album, it's kind of, there was never any set rules about what a McCartney named album should be. Those rules have just kind of really applied based on what's been released. When Mccartney II came out, and I think it was obvious that both the albums were just Paul completely on his own, writing, recording, everything himself, that kind of became the standard for McCartney albums. Mccartney III then, how does it fit in with that? Well, largely it fits in the same. You know, it's made under, Paul's made a thing about how it's made under the same kind of difficult circumstances, have been sort of finding himself in a position of sort of solitude, if you like, and with time on his hands, as he did with the first two. And he said, again, as he said with Mccartney II, really, he didn't really realise until late on that he was making an album. That's the story. If we want to believe that, that's great. I don't know how much that's sort of said to enhance the stories of the albums, but it does make for a nice story anyway. And generally speaking, this is just Paul, with one exception, Sliding, the really heavy rock number on here. That does feature some of his other bandmates. And this version here that's got these bonus tracks on are quite interesting, because Sliding has got Dusseldorf Jam, which was it was kind of a sound check that they did when they were in Dusseldorf, so that is him and his band, and it does sound very different. Then it later morphed into the much sort of heavier Sliding that we have on the album. Kiss of Venus phone demo is very, very lo-fi. It is just literally recorded onto his phone. And Kiss of Venus is, I think, is an interesting song anyway, leaving himself really exposed vocally. You know, there's no studio gimmickry here like there was on For You, for example, on Egypt Station. He's really laying himself bare here. Women and Wives, as I say, has got the additional verse in that we don't hear on the final version, and then we've got a studio outtake of Lavatory Lil as well on there. So that was all good and interesting to have. Personally, if I'm gonna say which are my favourite songs on here and how do I rank it amongst the other two McCartney albums, I love Long-Tailed Winter Bird. Pretty Boys, I think, is a beautiful song. It's one that really, really grew on me quite quickly when the album came out, and I really enjoy that. Women and Wives really strikes me as, you may remember during the first lockdown, so around about the summer of 2020, there was an online concert, and it was kind of a sort of a benefit concert for everything that was going on with the various sort of health services across the world, people sort of saying thank you for everything that was happening. And Paul did a really, really sort of bare, stripped back version of Lady Madonna, and it got quite a lot of criticism at the time. But I've always felt that Women and Wives is, I would love to know whether Women and Wives was recorded after that, because it feels very, very similar style to me. He's using his Lady Madonna kind of voice, or certainly his voice that he would use when he sings Lady Madonna these days, and it very much feels like that version of Lady Madonna that he did on that benefit concert. Deep Deep Feeling is, I mean, that's the epic on this album, and I think it continues to sound absolutely stunning as a kind of a soundscape. As a song, there's not much to it, but as a listening experience, I think it's fantastic. Deep Down, I think, is a lot of fun. It reminds me of, I mean, it certainly feels like it could be, a lot of you'll know Frank Sinatra's Party. That was one of the sort of additional tracks released off the back of Egypt Station. It was an old 70s Paul McCartney song. He resurrected it, called it Frank Sinatra's Party. Deep Down feels to me like it's a bit like if you were at that Frank Sinatra's party and it's now 2 a.m, everybody's just sort of really, really toasted. It's all kind of winding down a bit, and that really, to me, has got the vibe of something like that. And then Winter Bird, When Winter Comes at the end. When Winter Comes obviously stands out on the album because it's clear that we're not listening to current Paul McCartney, but it's an important song because it was the video that was being put together for that kind of kicked off this whole project in the first place. So it's actually from 1992, as I'm sure many of you know. It was recorded on the same day as Calico Skies, the same take that appears on Flaming Pie. And it's great to hear that voice of Paul's and Paul just sort of singing about the countryside like he used to do on things like Heart of the Country. So it really harks back to, it's a link to the older era Paul McCartney. So there's some really interesting stuff there. I'm still regularly enjoying this album. I'm playing it quite often still. I'm certainly going to play it tonight with it being the anniversary. I'm going to crank it up loud tonight. I've just got to decide whether to go for the Spotify green vinyl or the white vinyl. I don't know yet. We'll see what happens at the time. In terms of where I'd rank it among the other McCartney albums, the first one from 1970 for me, that's up there. That stands alone. You know, he was still in the Beatles when he recorded it. It's got Maybe I'm Amazed on there. It is the start of essentially his post-Beatles career, even though, like I say, he was technically still a Beatle. But that stands alone for me. And then McCartney II and McCartney III are both albums that I really enjoy. And sometimes I'll say, usually if I play McCartney 2, I'll think, yeah, I like this one best. And then I'll put McCartney 3 on and think, well, no, actually, I like this one best. So I'm still kind of to and froing between 2 and 3 as to which I prefer. But I think that's a compliment to this album because I've got a special place in my heart for McCartney 2, and for this to be sort of battling it out with it, I think is real testament to it. So I'm really enjoying that album. And then, of course, we got McCartney 3, Imagined, this spin-off from it, which was really interesting. It was an unusual release. We got it released digitally, first of all, for streaming. I think it was around about April when that came out. And then we had a 3-month period before the physical version of the album came out. Now, I'm sure that ideally they wouldn't have done that. Maybe it was to do with pressing plant issues, maybe COVID-related production issues, I don't know. But I don't think ideally you would do that because I'm sure they must have suffered from a lot of people like myself will have still bought the album physically, but there must have been a fair amount who had kind of had the moment with it digitally before it came out physically, and maybe some orders were cancelled as a result of that, I don't know. But I'm going to show you what I got for McCartney 3 Imagined anyway. Let's talk about it first a little bit. So it's interesting that there are a lot of people out there who kind of say, well, you know, Paul's voice isn't what it was, and it would be great to hear him carry on making music, but maybe with other people singing it is what I do hear other people saying. And now he's done it, and of course a lot of people still criticise him for it. I think there's some really interesting versions on 3 Imagined. I think the Kiss of Venus by Dominic Fike is a really good version. I think Find My Way, the Beck version, is probably one that I prefer. I've got the CD here, so I think that Find My Way featuring Beck is one I prefer, as is Kiss of Venus. I think Deep Down is very different, but still interesting. And I think probably then I really like When Winter Comes, the remix of that, and it's very similar. It's just kind of been speeded up a little bit. It's had a drum beat applied to it, and it's had a very sort of deliberate warbly effect put on it. But I think it's a lot of fun. Is the version of When Winter Comes on 3 Imagined. So I got the regular CD. I also got, again, I was really thankful to Capitol Records. They sent me a package, which I was really grateful for, which had these dice in. So this was the 3 Imagined dice in this metal tin. And again, it was kind of the number 3 on some sides, and then on other sides we had written the names of artists who appeared on the album. So Beck, Dominic Fike, I believe that's pronounced Khruangbin. I could still be wrong several months later. And then we've got Phoebe Bridgers there, Blood Orange, who do Deep Down. Don't know if you can see, that's very faint. Damon Albarn, who does a remix of Long-Tailed Winter Bird. Damon Albarn from Blur, of course. So that was really nice. So I got the dice. I bought the regular CD. I I also got in that package from Capitol, again, on tape. I haven't opened this. I'm not going to open it because I won't be playing it. But again, it's really nice to have on display alongside the Mccartney Iii cassette and my other cassettes that I've kept sort of a couple of cassettes from the 80s. I had hundreds of them. I've kept a couple that mean the most to me, and I've put these alongside them on the shelf. And then I did get, again, from Capitol, very thankful to them, I got a vinyl version of Three Imagined. Great photograph of Paul on the back there on his horse. And the version that I bought that I got on release day, which is same cover, same picture on the back. And this is the splatter vinyl. So that's really nice. I do really like that. It's a double vinyl. This is the second disc of the two. First disc looks exactly the same. So I've kind of ended up with this ridiculous haul of Mccartney Iii related products. Certainly more than I've ever accumulated, I think, for any other album. I mean, things like Sgt. Pepper I've got various copies of, and I've got deluxe box sets, but I've accumulated those over many, many years, but I've probably still not got as much as I got for Mccartney Iii over the course of its first few months, really. I know a lot of you have probably got way more than I've got in terms of vinyl variations. I've enjoyed watching videos from people who've been showing, you know, the 20 different vinyl versions that they've got. That's not a route that I want to go down, but it's been enjoyable watching those who've been having fun doing that. So yeah, it's a year old. As I said before, let me know what you think about this album, because I've really enjoyed it. I think it's great that a trilogy has been completed. Do I need a fourth one? I don't know. I would always love more new Paul McCartney albums. I'll be honest, I thought that Egypt Station was going to be potentially his last studio album. And there are so many clues on that album that if it had been his last, there's loads of things on there that would have been pointers to the fact that it was his last album. But it's not to be, and that's kind of affected the way I listen to Egypt Station a little bit these days. But I'm really enjoying Mccartney Iii. I hope we get several more albums from Sir Paul. I don't know, do I want a McCartney IV? I like, a trilogy seems nice and neat. So unless he's going to wait until 2030 to do McCartney IV when he'll be 88 years old, I don't know. But I think it's good that we've got the trilogy anyway. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon. Have a great Christmas if you're watching this before Christmas. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.